What's up guys, my name's Hugh Miller, and today I want to talk about the required computer specs for Mystery of the Seven Keys. This has been something that a lot of fans have been curious about, especially because I know some fans still don't have PCs powerful enough to run the newer games. On April 16th, Her Interactive launched the game page on their website for Mystery of the Seven Keys. It's still missing some information such as game costs, screenshots, features, and character bios, but it's fully loaded with all the minimum and recommended computer specs to help fans see if their computer will be able to barely or comfortably run this new game. I'm going to be comparing these specs to Midnight and Salem's to help give some more perspective. Please note that all Windows PCs will need DirectX 11 and both PC and Mac users need 20GB of hard drive space. I also want to point out that if you're a Chromebook user, you will not be able to run this game at all. First off, we're going to look at the operating system requirements. Midnight and Salem required a minimum of Windows 7 to play the game, but Mystery of the Seven Keys now requires a minimum of Windows 10 or later. For those on a Mac system, you have to have upgraded from El Capitan up to Catalina in order to play Key. The minimum PC specs have increased from mid. Before, you needed an Intel i3 3.0 GHz or AMD equivalent processor, 4GB of RAM, an Intel HD 4000 graphics with 2GB of video RAM, and 8GB of hard drive storage space. For Key, those got bumped up to needing an AMD FX 6300 or an Intel i3 4XXX, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 750 Ti or AMD Radeon R7 370, 2GB of video RAM, 6GB of RAM, and 20GB of hard drive space. So to run this game at its minimum settings, you're still going to need an upgrade from what it took to run mid. The recommended PC specs are obviously different from the minimum specs. This is what Her Interactive recommends having in order to run the game in a comfortable state. Previously, with Midnight and Salem, it was recommended to have a 6th generation Intel i5 3.0 GHz processor, 8GB of RAM, an NVIDIA GTX 960 or AMD R9 270X, and 10GB of hard drive space. Now, Her Interactive is recommending that PC users have an Intel i5 3.0 GHz, they don't mention the generation of processor, or AMD equivalent processor, NVIDIA GeForce 1050 Ti or AMD Radeon RX 470 graphics card, 4GB of video RAM, 8GB of regular RAM, and 20GB of hard drive space. To sum it up, for the PC users that may not have super powerful computers, you may need to take a look at upgrading to something that will be capable of running this newer game. I know it's not possible for everyone who has a lower end PC or laptop to upgrade because upgrades always cost more money, but if you're able to, I definitely recommend it, especially if you want to play this and newer titles without any issues. Now onto the Mac crowd, which I know has continued to grow. Mac users aren't immune to these changes either, so if you've got a Mac, here's what you're going to need to know. Your minimum computer specs for mid required an Intel i3 3.0 GHz processor, Intel HD 4000 graphics with 2GB of video RAM, 4GB of regular RAM, and 8GB of hard drive storage space. Now, Mystery of the Seven Keys is going to require an Intel i5 dual-core processor, NVIDIA GeForce GT 750M graphics card with 2GB of video RAM, 8GB of regular RAM, and 20GB of hard drive storage space. For the recommended specs, you previously required an Intel i5 3.0 GHz processor, 16GB of RAM, an NVIDIA 680MX or AMD R9 M290 graphics card with 2GB of video RAM, and 8GB of hard drive storage space. For Key, you'll need an Intel i5 quad-core processor, AMD Radeon Pro 560 or equivalent NVIDIA graphics card with 4GB of video RAM, 8GB of regular RAM, and 20GB of hard drive storage space. All in all, whether you're on PC or Mac, it's always a smart move to double check that you've got a machine powerful enough to run this new game. Obviously, you don't need something to run Jedi Survivor on ultra graphics, but Nancy Drew games are moving up in the world and graphically are demanding higher performance computers. The old days of pre-rendered 2D frames are not a part of the future of Nancy Drew games, so if you haven't caught up yet, I definitely recommend making the first steps to doing so. I hope this video is useful to some people, and if you've got a powerful PC or Mac, then this video might not be applicable to your situation. Most likely you can run the game without flaws. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day.